Navbahor, are there any issues related to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan on the agenda during his visit to Astana in Tashkent?
Absolutely. Besides Ukraine, that we expect to be discussed widely, bilateral cooperation. U.S. wants to enhance strategic partnerships with both countries, and so economic cooperation, political partnership, and also educational ties, cultural ties, social ties are going to be discussed in both capitals, in Astana with President Tokayev, and in Tashkent with President Mirziyoyev and other officials. U.S. is very proud of its strategic partnerships with Tashkent and Astana, and U.S. wants to be and remains a reliable partner. Says Donald Lu in conversation with us, and Donald Lu being the top diplomat for South and Central Asia, Assistant Secretary. Today, when at the State Department, he was briefing journalists about the upcoming trip, he specifically stressed that the United States cares about human rights in the region. It stands to defend them. It is committed to promote human rights and freedom in Central Asia. And in both countries, in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, Washington supports the political, economic, and social reform agenda that Presidents Tokayev and Mirziyoyev have introduced. Tokayev's agenda was announced last year, as you know, following the January violence in Almaty and other cities, following the civilian protests. And then Mirziyoyev's agenda was introduced in 2017 and 2018 that then Trump administration, and then obviously later the Biden administration wholeheartedly decided to support. So Washington will continue to cheer these reform programs, but it definitely wants them to get faster. They want to see concrete actions from these governments towards democracy. They want the human rights situations in both countries to improve. And as Assistant Secretary Lu told us today, that Washington observes some progress in Kazakhstan, for example, against torture, towards the rule of law, towards independent judiciary, and Washington definitely wants to see similar kinds of progress in Uzbekistan. And Washington expressed its concerns about the ongoing Karakalpakstan trials in Bukhara, and we know that recently the Uzbek authorities announced that at least 3 security law enforcement officers are under arrest, and they will be held responsible for their involvement in the July 2022 unrest in Nukus and around Nukus. So we know that both Tashkent and Astana watches Washington statements, especially when it comes to human rights, and they've been responding according to U.S. officials. So there is this constructive dialogue that they describe that's been taking place between Washington and Astana, between Tashkent and Washington. So Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan being the main, partners in the region, Uzbekistan is the largest society in Central Asia. Kazakhstan is largest by territory, but also Kazakhstan is where most of the U.S. investment is, specifically in its oil sector. So for Washington, the relationships with these two countries definitely matter most in the region. But Blinken Blinken is definitely going to also raise these issues with the foreign ministers of other countries, specifically of Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. As you know, Turkmenistan is one of the closest societies in the world systems in the world, definitely in the region. There are human rights concerns in Kyrgyzstan. There are very deep concerns in Tajikistan with what's been happening in the Pamir region. So you know, in mountainous Badakhshan. So all of these are going to be discussed, and probably most of them will be, you know, mentioned. These concerns will be mentioned behind closed doors, but I am sure we'll be hearing about some of them. We'll be getting some details about how these conversations go. But it's not every day that the Secretary of State travels to the region and, you know, feels the air in the region, comes face to face with Central Asians and gets to discuss these issues there, you know, on Central Asian soil. So we know that the public is quite excited as well, as we've been, you know, following on social media. I have to mention that there are also polls from the human rights community here in the United States, as well as in Europe, urging the United States to raise human rights concerns and problems in the region in conversation with Kazakh and Uzbek leaders. So I'm sure they will also be watching with great attention.
Thank you.